Hey guys, Cressup here. Welcome adventurers to another episode of Indies in Depth, the series where we take a look behind the scenes at the indie game industry with the people who work in it. Now today I'm chatting to Tony Warriner and Stoo Cambridge. You might recognise both those names. Tony Warriner has worked at Revolution Software on games such as Broken Sword and Beneath a Steel Sky, and Stoo has worked on games such as Sensible Soccer. So veterans in their own right, they really know what they're doing. It was really great to have a chat with them about the new game that they're making together, Urb X Warriors, which is an arcade adventure game. So really excited to have a chat with them. It was lovely to speak to them. If you like this video, drop it a like and a subscribe. Would really appreciate it. It's just a small channel that I do for fun. And also check me out on Twitch. I am on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cressup. Do give me a little follow there, because I do also play retro games, adventure games, stuff like this, and sometimes do some interviews live on there as well. Now, on with the video. So a big welcome to Tony Warriner and Stoo Cambridge. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining. They're going to be talking to me about Urb X Warriors, which is the game that they're both creating and working on at the moment. You might recognise Tony, who, of course, helped create such amazing adventure games as Beneath a Steel Sky and Broken Sword, and Stoo as well, who's a pixel artist who's worked on, again, amazing games like Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. I appreciate you taking the time out. I did briefly meet you at Develop, and that was great to bump into you guys and hear a little bit about the game. But I guess I'd like to know a little bit, first of all, how did both of you guys meet?
Just by chance, really, wasn't it? I mean, we did a couple of podcasts together just as guests, and didn't really get chatting, did we, on there? Which is more like it just was on and then we was off. And it was only really at Zap. Was that 2 years ago? Zap Live or 3?
23, Zap Live 23.
Yeah. Probably. And Tony had his had got his book out, which was a great, great book. That's massive. Absolutely.
It is, yeah.
It's like,
I have read it all, but it did take a while.
And I was helping you. I was helping you in the car with some boxes, didn't I? I'm usually I'll give you a hand because you had a table there, and we kind of just got chatting, really, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And then we sat on the panel together and chatted a bit more, and then we sat on the table afterwards and chatted a bit more, and we realised that we were almost the same person from the same era of the 90s. Working for the same publisher at the same time and having a bit of success back in those days, and kind of took it from there, really.
Yeah, and we kind of joked that, or maybe we should do a game together one day. Just off the cuff comment, nothing meaning in it. It was just like, we should do a game together one day, as you do sometimes, say.
Yeah,
and here we are.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the game then, Urb X Warriors. What's it all about?
Want to go first, or
go on, you're best at the story.
Stoo has already gave me the spiel at Develop, and he's very practiced at it. So I'll go for it, Stoo.
You didn't fall asleep either. You didn't fall asleep when I was doing it.
No, I was very awake.
Well, basically, we both got an interest in like 80s, 90s arcade games where you just pick up and play. And when we was talking about doing a game, we wanted to do something where you could literally just play it without having to read an instruction book or understand what you have to do. And we picked out bits and pieces from various 80s and 90s games we liked. And we came up with this idea of urban exploring. And with that, we thought, well, we could go into like building stuff. Why don't we do it so it's a little bit more arcadey and a bit open? So we thought, well, we could do it with these two urban explorers, Alejandro and Ramona. And they're based in South America, Peru and Bolivia, around that area. And we created this fictitious location, which is sort of around Lake Titicaca, around that area. And the idea is they find this kind of like cordoned off archaeological site. So the urban explorer and interest is from that moment on, because they think it's all boarded up and they want to go in and they kind of break their way into this, what they think is this kind of like buried temple. And they work their way through. And at first, they find it's like just like snakes, spiders, scorpions, all that sort of stuff. But as they go in, they find this entrance. And they find it's actually not a temple. It's like an underground city. And it's an underground city of the dead. hence the zombies in the game and all those kind of weird things. And we've just basically taken that and just run with it, the whole idea. And the game's like a kind of sort of top-down-ish sort of view, reminiscent of some of the games you'd play in the arcades, like, you know, I mean, bits of Commando, bits of Gauntlet, a little bit. People said it's like Gauntlet, and we're happy with that. You know, we didn't intend to do Gauntlet, but we've picked up all those like elements, and we've got other areas like, you know, bits of what's the other game? URB Warriors, where you've got little bits of exploration to do. And we just picked up all these little elements from games we like and just put them in. And here we are. You know, it's an adventure arcade game. There's a little bit of RPG in it, which is Tony's background. So it's great having all that stuff in there, because the speech, originally we just had some sprites running around. And when Tony put the speech stuff in, it was like, yeah, this really transforms it.
Yeah.
You know, because we've got these kind of like, almost like, I don't know, characterless characters. You can see the characters, but there's no dialogue. But as soon as that dialogue went in, it was like, wow, this is really cool, because you can get bits of personality in those few lines. And so as you go through, you're adventuring, you're solving puzzles, you're finding keys to unlock doors and chests and all sorts of things. And you're just trying to find your way through. But as you get further in, you realise you can't get out. So you've got to find your way out. Hence, it's over 4 areas, and you get deeper and deeper in. And it just progresses and becomes more paranormal the more you get into the game.
I guess, Tony, was that something you wanted to bring into it a bit of that kind of story element that obviously you're used to working on, or did that sort of progress as you were going?
Well, as Stu says, it started as like a pure arcade experience where, you know, it was meant to be easy to play and no instructions required and all that kind of thing. But, you know, once I've been working on an engine for a few months, I start thinking, well, where's the speech system? You know, where's the inventory? Where are the puzzles? You know, because I always do that bit in every engine I've written in the last 30 years or something. So I suddenly realised that actually it would. I mean, what makes anything these days is the narrative and the potential for story and the characters, and I think the games that people really love and remember are the ones where they've got a bond with the characters. So the way to really enhance that and bring it out is to have them speak, and I couldn't see any reason not to do it. And I mean, most of the time it's just, you know, whenever something happens, they'll be talking, as they would. I mean, people will be talking, you know, they would be saying things. So even if it doesn't affect you as the player, they're chatting away as they're playing, you know. And then we'll probably layer that in a bit further and have some proper conversations and stuff, you know, as well as just thought bubbles and all the rest of it, you know.
And what sort of fundamentals did you want in the game then? It sounds like kind of exploration is maybe part of it. Obviously, as you say, bringing those characters alive a bit. What sort of things, when you set out, you're like, right, this is kind of what we sort of want?
I think first and foremost, it had to be pick up and play.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And I mean, if you go back to like the old stuff that you can play from like the 80s and 90s, there was no real need to read instructions for those arcade style games. So that's the first thing we wanted. But as Tony just said, once Tony put the speech stuff in, it kind of opened up for adventure elements. So we've got, you know, there's going to be parts later in the game where you can probably, you know, you can choose different routes, but one route might give you a clue because you might interact with somebody or something, and that might give you a pointer to something else that you haven't seen before in the game. So it's quite interesting, because like my background is more arcadey style games, and Tony's background is more adventure style games, and really it was purely by accident, really the fluke, that we kind of just went to form as we normally would do, and it's kind of just meshed together, and this game has evolved from that. But yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's really down to just being able to pick up and play with some adventure elements. So but not something too heavy.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, we are encouraging people to make maps as they play it, because there are different paths through the game. And there are lots of little bits where you might not discover it when you first play it.
Okay.
And you play it again, and you might find a secret exit somewhere or something you haven't seen before. So yeah, there's lots of little bits in there.
And you choose a character at the start, and will that make for like a slightly different playthrough, or did you say, are you swapping between characters, or how's that working with the two different characters?
It's pretty much the same at the moment, but I think we will explore ways of making it so it's a slightly different game depending on which character you choose. So they'll have a slightly better skill set one way or the other depending on which one where you play, and we might put some different elements in the maps. I mean, it's quite easy to do. So this will happen to the girl and this will happen to the guy, and it'll just be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Not hugely, but just a little bit, so you notice. I mean, like the weapons, like the girl is better with the spanner, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that might lead to something slightly more significant further on. So we will do it. I mean, not it's not the gist of it, but yeah, we will do it in a subtle sort of way. So as you play, you'll go, oh yeah, that's different,
And Stu, tell me a little bit about the sort of graphic style and how you kind of approach that, because obviously it is very much kind of like a retro style that you'd expect from these kind of arcade games.
Purely down to restrictions on the hardware,
Sure.
really.
Yes.
We've got a very limited palette on the Spectrum Next. I mean, I have to say, it's not just for the Spectrum Next. We have got other versions planned after this version's finished. But it was literally down to the fact that the Spectrum Next has only got a 512 color palette. So when you're mixing your colours, you're very, very restricted, and it's more evident when you get into the lower shades. So when you get to sort of medium greys or tints of grey, when you go a little bit further down, it just steps quite dramatically.
Right.
So you want a couple of shades and you haven't got them. You think, oh no. So that was quite evident from the very start that I had a bit of a task ahead of me to try and make the graphics look the best I can with quite restrictive hardware. I mean, it's got a great set of features, but the palette is very limited compared to what we're used to today and what sort of later machines would have had. So really, I just approached it in that respect and just kind of thought, well, I've got to do an art style that pulls to the strengths of that machine, but without compromising, which is a bit of a challenge. And I know pixel art is everyone loves pixel art these days, which is great for me. And I know stippling is used a lot to be as a style within pixel art, rather than just be a function. It's actually a style within pixel art. So I thought, well, I'll use stippling a lot on the backgrounds as function and style, and just go back to my roots of doing the stuff I did on the Amiga in the 90s, all that sort of stuff, and just pushed it that direction. I mean, for instance, in the walls are quite it's got a very unusual angle, but the walls are drawn so they're not mega high, they're not really high, because we couldn't do that because we had we wanted the maps to be quite open. And of course, if you have big walls in there, then you're going to think, well, the character would need to move behind the wall, and we couldn't quite do it on the Next. We could do it, but it would restrict other things in the game engine. So we kept it all kind of fairly sort of trimmed and concise. But it kind of worked because the art style kind of reflects that, and it all kind of fits together. And the same with the sprites. The sprites are, I mean, they're quite small. I mean, the sprites on the Next are 16 by 16 pixels. So you're kind of restricted. You're kind of restricted. So again, that reflected in the art style. And I mean, they're actually, when you look at them, they're not that much bigger than the ones I did in Cannon Fodder.
Right.
They're not that much bigger. They're a little bit bigger, but they're not that much bigger. So it is down to really the hardware restrictions that kind of dictated the style of the artwork.
And I guess, you mentioned, obviously, it is going to be for the Spectrum Next, which is the sort of modern computer that's compatible with the ZX Spectrum. It is also going to be on Windows, I believe, and Mac and Linux and things like that. But what was the decision behind making it and designing it for the Spectrum Next? Where did that come from?
It's a good question. I mean, we were kind of joking about doing it with Chris, who runs the Crash and Zap magazines and shows, and we were kind of winding him up, telling him he should become a publisher and stuff like that. And then he went away and thought about it, and he happened to come across a couple of licenses that were floating around in the old Spectrum world, and sort of jokingly said, "Do you want to do this then for the Next?" And we kind of thought, oh yeah, that maybe this is the game we'll do together. And so we were looking at a licensed game, a quite famous game from the 80s, and we were going to do it. And we were just about to start it, really, and the whole thing fell through because the original author decided to go a different way, whatever. But then we were like, well, hang on, this felt like quite a good idea, so let's just do our own game. And then we started talking about this, and so it's worked out pretty nicely, really. I mean, this has been a lot more work than Port would have been, like a year's more work. But it's better to have an original game in your hand always,
And in terms of, I mean, Stu's kind of mentioned the sort of graphical limitations, but also benefits. What was it like in terms of actually sort of programming for it as well?
It's quite hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, to get this machine to really sing, you need to program it back in assembler again. Which, I mean, I'd not done it. I worked out since probably 1988, something like that. Things moved on, and they would laugh at you in the 90s if you were programming in code. I mean, we switched from assembly to C for Broken Sword, so like early 90s. But the last Z80 I did was 1988, I think, on the actual Spectrum. So to go back to it was a bit shaky at first. You have to dig out the manual and try and remember all the idiosyncrasies there are in that chip. And
did you quite enjoy that though? I feel like that's something you would quite, or maybe not.
I was scared at first, but then 2 days in, it was like riding a bike. So yeah, it was fine. I mean, it's actually been quite tricky because the Spectrum Next has got all this memory and quite a lot of power and facilities on the hardware. It's actually a much larger program than we ever wrote back in the day. So
right, okay.
Because I mean, our approach really is to go. It is a retro game, but it's like going back to the point where all this stuff stopped and then carrying on again as if it never did stop.
Yeah.
So I mean, this game is not something that ever came out back in the day. It's more advanced than that, and that's based on the new power of the machines and the fact that we've all had 30 odd years meanwhile to learn a lot of stuff in the industry. So everything has gone back into this. So some of it's retro, but it's not really, So consequently, it's a much more complex game than we ever wrote back then. So it's been doubly a challenge, to implement it.
And is it right? You've also made sort of like a special controller for the game as well.
Yes,
Nice.
we have. I've got it. I've actually left it in the box.
Oh, don't worry. That's all right.
I'll dish it out at some point. Yeah. I haven't unpacked from the Not show yet. I've got loads of boxes. So yes.
Yeah. So I guess, have you been taking this around to quite a few shows at the moment? And what has the feedback been like? What have people been saying when you've been showing it off?
It's been amazing. Absolutely amazing. We first took it out at Crash Live about was it last year? And it was very. I mean, I think we were both quite nervous because we're veteran developers, I suppose, if you want to call us that. We've been around since the early days. So going back to this kind of game all these years later, and you're known for games that have done exceptionally well, and you do panels, you get people signing, sign your boxes and all that sort of stuff. Making a game now, I think people had quite high expectations of, well, you've done this, you must be doing something really cool. So we had to make the bar quite high, which is fine because we've been doing this for a long time. But there's still that nerves when you load, you've got the machine set up, you've got your table with all your bits and pieces on it, and then it's live, people got the joystick there, and you see someone come up to play it, and you stand there like this. Will they like it?
Yeah.
And you kind of not, you don't want to be too hovery, you don't want to hover around, but you're kind of like looking and thinking, and then people start enjoying it, and then they play it again, and they play it again, and then somebody else comes. It's like, oh, this is really cool. So we knew we'd got something special at that first show we did, and the feedback was great. I mean, the feedback was just fantastic. We've had people coming up saying, what's that running on? It's like, I was on the Spectrum Next. And they wouldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. So, no, surely not. It's like, no, it is. Look, it's there. The LED's actually on. It's red. It's plugged in. So yeah, feedback's been fantastic so far, and it's continued to be like that every show we've done, which is brilliant.
It was an amazing day, wasn't it? I mean, we were like 2 hours into it, and people were just playing it. And people generally, you see, I mean, I've had this in the past. People will come and play a game, and they'll play it a little bit, and then they'll go, oh yeah, that's cool, and then they'll go on to the next one. But this one they didn't. They would sit and play all the demo right the way through, and sometimes they'd go through it twice, and and then they'd like see if their friend was still there, and they'd say this is actually quite good, and then the friend would play it and do the same thing, you know.
Yes.
Then I started about 11 o'clock in the morning. I started getting WhatsApps saying, "What's going on? People are talking about your game online." You know, it's like it was spreading all around the place. It was amazing, really.
Well, that's great. Well, that's exactly what you want. That sounds fantastic.
It really is, yeah. Because there's nowhere to hide, you know. I mean, everyone's talking about making games, and some people are making games, but until you actually put it in front of real people, you don't know anything, you know.
Do you think, though, we are seeing quite an appetite for people wanting to play these quite simple retro games? Because, you know, we had UFO 50, which came out, was like a really big success recently. And that did obviously tweak the formula a little bit and have these kind of modern elements. But it feels like that there is quite an appetite for people wanting to play these sort of things.
I think people are tired. I mean, there is a sort of nostalgia thing. That's one side of it. And I think there is also a broader interest of playing something that's just nice and easy, you know, and not costing a fortune to buy, not hitting you for DLCs, not asking for money for this, that, and the other, and not full of loot boxes, and not going to get switched off when the server goes down, you know, because it's not made enough quarterly profits for whoever it is that owns the publisher, you know. I think there's a big backlash going on, and people are gravitating. People are kind of fleeing from AAA and looking at other options, you know. And what we're doing is one of those options.
Yeah, and I think that's possibly that's, like you say, why it was so, you know, especially at a convention, you know, so easy. People would just sit down, play it, and just get really into it.
Quite interesting way. Some people have never used a joystick before.
Oh yeah, I remember you say that. Develop. What was that like then?
Yeah. You think what? You've never used a joystick, but then why would they? You know.
Yeah. We had it in Knots the other week. Last week we was there, and a few people there who'd never actually used a joystick before ever, and it was like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this. And I said, well, just give it a go, because this is how we used to play games in the 80s and 90s, and it's all arcade games. And we've designed it for. I mean, you can play a joypad. I mean, I use an Xbox pad when I'm testing sometimes because, you know, and within like a few minutes, you could see them like just not even thinking about it. They were just got straight into it. So it's really cool to see that. You know, it's really cool.
Because I mean, that's where it all came from anyway. So yeah, that's the, sort of the initial thing. I'm glad to hear it. You're reintroducing the joystick into the gaming community.
Into the wild, yeah.
I noticed, by the way, because you were sort of touching on this, Tony. You mentioned on your itch that you're kind of you're interested in like game authenticity as well, and is that kind of what do you mean by that? Is it kind of creating something that you believe in and showing it to the audience, or what exactly do you mean?
I mean, it's just come from the authors of the game, you know, and it's been handcrafted in every way to be the vision that we have for it. I mean, there's no kind of interference from what the market might expect, or trying to go along certain lines that are required for like a AAA game. There's a lot of boxes that got to be ticked on spreadsheets and all the rest of it, and these games tend to mimic each other. And you've got to do this because this game that was a success last week is doing this, and you can read lots of analysis of what's selling on Steam, and you have to do they'll be saying, oh well, there's a niche in the market for deck building, multiplayer, cozy fairy cake factory games.
Roguelites, there's a lot of those.
And that's what you've got to do now, because that's what the market expects. And I suspect that if you're putting games together like that to fit a market segment that happens to be hot this like the next 2-month window, that's probably not going to be an authentic video game in the sense that of the classic games that we all know about. So I mean, but no one's telling us what to do, because we're just doing whatever the hell we like.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we might come out with a crazy game, but hopefully it'll be authentic no matter what else it is,
And as you say, so it's just both of you making it. I guess has that been difficult sometimes in sort of knowing what direction to go, or like knowing when something is finished? Because I know that's can be difficult sometimes if you're not working to somebody else being like, right, okay, we are done with this section now, or has that all been all right?
It's been particularly easy, really, to be honest, in that respect, because we both just get on wheel so well with it, and we both share the same kind of values when it comes to what makes a good game, and what like Tony said, we're crafting the game. We're not just making a game. We're actually, it's like handcrafted, which probably sounds a little bit, oh yeah, you know, but it's true, you know, because we put something in, and we test it, and then we test it again, then we tweak it, we adjust it. And when it's ready, we both know it's ready because it just plays good, and that's it. And even like simple little things, like Tony will suggest something, and yeah, that's a cool idea, or I'll suggest something, yeah, that's cool, and we just put it in. You know, we say that'll go in, that'll work. And it goes back to what Tony just said about there's no kind of like, you know, sort of checklist where you're going, yep, that's in. We've got a plan of what we're doing. We know what the game's about. We've got all the areas with all the graphics, all the sprites. We know what we're putting into it and all the different bits and pieces. But the actual nitty gritty of it all is very much, you know, we follow the plan, but we'll add bits in as we go that feel right. You know, a lot of it's just what feels in here. If it feels right in here and it plays well, then it's like, yeah, that's going in, you know. And I mean, recently we had ghosts in the game, which were a lot of people saw, but they were placeholders from day one. And what was happening is people going, "Oh, it's Gauntlet," because they saw the ghosts. My fault, totally my fault, because I did ghosts because I thought ghosts looked cool. Put them in, and so the real baddies in those first is like scorpions and spiders and snakes and all those sort of things. So recently we put the scorpions in, but it's just trying to craft in a way where it just feels good, you know. It just feels when you play it, and it feels natural when you play it. There's no agendas or anything like that. There's no kind of, you know, we've got a tick box to make sure we've got, like, you know, 3 end of level bosses and so many, you know, so many bits and pieces. It's just, we're just going in what works, really.
And I wonder, kind of, Tony, we were sort of touching on this, but you know, we are seeing like a host of games now. They are sort of debatably under that adventure game moniker, but they might have a bit of turn-based combat. They might have kind of RPG elements, and you know, obviously, you do get these sort of on one stage, some people who don't want to accept it as an adventure game, or that being of that kind of genre. You know, do you think it's time we kind of lose that sort of protectiveness over the genre, or it feels like we're at the moment trying to decide what the genre is a little bit, and whether it can invite these other elements?
Yeah, well, that's been going on since the PlayStation came in, really. And
true.
I mean, adventure games were kind of beaten up by every other genre in the world, and you know, as I've said before, like Tomb Raider was one of the most significant things that caused a lot of trouble for traditional adventure makers, especially us, you know, because suddenly the publishers and whatever were saying, you know, your stuff's out of date, you know, this is the future, and you know, it's Silent Hill or it's Tomb Raider and this kind of thing. And then you look at those games and you see that they're doing lots of adventure things as well. You know, they've taken the puzzles and they've taken the inventory and some of the dialogue stuff and put it in a slightly different setting. So that the whole, you know, the corpse of the 2D point and click adventure game was picked out by everybody, and its bones taken away and used elsewhere, and that's been going on ever since. I mean, I think now there is a resurgence to some degree with point and click adventure games. You know, you look at something like Hobbs Barrow, which is absolutely lovely, but it's very rigid and traditional in that it's kind of low res and it's very 2D, very simple sprites, a pure point and click interface. And I think that probably is what the genre will stay as, because so much of it is spread everywhere else. If you're going to be the guardian of what is a point and click adventure game, then you know what we're seeing now with the 2D games is probably what it will stay as. I think you know, they've said it's going to be very rigidly this spec, and that's what they'll do, I think, with that genre. So, I mean, we were always trying to say, how do we move it on? What do we do? How do we advance it? And I think probably people aren't saying that now. They're saying, we're going to write an adventure, so there's a very strict list of things that you need. So if I was going to write another point-and-click adventure, which I might do one day for fun, I would probably go very traditional with it and not try and innovate, except in the storyline or whatever,
And people can obviously play this game at the moment, and in terms of the demo, that's correct. And you've also got a Discord. Where can people find out about all this kind of stuff?
There is an itch page, and there is a Discord as well. So they can, if you get to the itch page, then the Discord is off of that, and the demo is on the itch page. So it's all kind of fairly focused around there. Very easy to find.
And you're taking lots of feedback, I've seen, and on all the comments and in all the community and everything, which is great.
Yeah, we hang around in there and see what people are saying. Yeah. So I mean, people are some good feedback and lots of bug reports and stuff like that, but also some good ideas. I mean, they came back and said, "What about speedrunning?" And I was like, "Speedrunning?" That whole thing had gone way over my head. But speedrunning apparently is a huge thing, and so the game now has a speedrun mode with a stopwatch clock and all the rest of it. So that's community feedback.
Awesome. And that's something to bear in mind when we do level designs, because I think, well, will this one make a really good speedrun level?
Yeah.
Because there's, again, when you start doing this, you don't even think about things like speedruns. So it's great when you put it out there, and then you get this feedback. It's great. But the other things, like Tony said, it's great for bug finding, because we're testing it all the time. We've got Paul who tests it for us. He's full-time testing it on it, and it's you can't find everything, and there's always some little weird thing that comes up that's like this most obscure bug ever.
Yeah.
Most obscure bug ever, and then someone will find it, and you think, how did you do that? So the demo is great because it lets us test the water with things, but it also means it gives us the chance to get some feedback on potential problems. So it's really good. And this is the great thing about being an indie dev, because you're directly connected to the very people who are going to play your game. And it's fantastic. It's really, it's almost like saying power to the people, really, isn't it? It's like, it's power to the devs, because we're directly engaging with the very people who are going to play it, which is amazing.
And big question, when do you think it's going to fully come out? Roughly, maybe. You don't have to give a specific.
We're working hard at it now. So we're looking at getting it kind of finished, I think 4-5 months, maybe around that time.
Cool.
Yeah.
We've got a schedule, a rough schedule, but we're not sticking to it like religiously, because we want to make the game really cool. But also we're not falling for feature creep. So we're not going to fall for that old thing where people never finish a game, because that's not happening. But we're working our way through each section at a time, and then it'll be finished. But we're in a good place with it. We've got lots of stuff, and it's really looking good. So can't wait to share it with everybody.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Well, it sounds fantastic. I kind of love the ethos behind it. It sounds really cool. And yeah, looking forward to when it comes out. And as you say, if anyone wants to try out the demo, they can now join the Discord and just check you guys out on itch.
Yeah, we've got the website page is urbxwarriors.com.
Great.
So that will take you. I think it takes you to the campaign page still. But even hashtag UrbX Warriors will take you to all the posts, because we try and tag everything with that as well. So that will give you a nice collection of posts, whatever. So yeah, we're working hard. So we're trying to shine a light on for other devs to say, look, we're doing this, follow what we're doing, and we're quite happy to share like resources with people. So if like someone says, where'd you get your boxes made? We'll say, we'll use this company, or where'd you get this made? We'll say, we'll use this guys, because we all benefit that way. We all work together, and that's one thing we notice when we do these shows. When you see other devs, the sense of community is just amazing. We're all in it together, and it's brilliant. There's no rivalry at all. There's no rivalry whatsoever. It's brilliant. So yeah, it's a great thing to do.
Oh, Fantastic. I love to hear it. Well, thank you so much, Tony and Stu. Yeah, really looking forward to it. And keep in touch. Let us know when it's coming out. It sounds great.
We will do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we will do. Cheers.